Welcome to Master the Game. I'm Juice, and I'm here with two of my wonderful patrons. First of all, thank you guys for joining us. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, and if you get any questions throughout the stream or even after the stream, feel free to post them, and we will do our best to answer them either tonight or in a future stream. With that, we do have some topics that we plan on talking about. And I'm pretty excited about it. We usually beforehand come up with a couple of things that we are interested in discussing, and we just discuss it live for all of you guys. So with that, Peter, Dave, do you guys want to introduce yourselves and maybe plug anything right off the bat? We'll start with you, Peter.
Peter, being Drake on the YouTube, just posting games up there.
And they're awesome. He also posted an awesome recap of our Tyranny of Dragons game because Peter is a player in that game. And here soon, we will be doing a Pulp Cthulhu game on Thursdays on this channel. So run by Peter. So that's going to be awesome. So go check his channel out. It's BN Drake. And then Dave, you want to plug your stuff?
Sure, why not? I'm Dave from Tactical Tokens, tacticaltokens.com. We make pretty cool miniature alternatives or supplements that are tokens that stick, stack, and are dry erase. But enough of that. I'm here to hang out. Let's go.
His tokens are really cool, guys. You gotta go check those out. And you'll be seeing those in some rules videos here very soon on the channel. I'm working on some Pathfinder videos where I will probably use those in that video. In those videos, I should say. So the very first topic tonight that I was really wanting to discuss was one-shots. And the reason I wanted to talk about them is I'm hoping over the next couple months to start doing a monthly one-shot on the channel. Most of them run by me, probably on Friday evenings. And if you're familiar with how I do things, I try to give my patrons first dibs on games. And then from there, if we can't fill the game, I will go to my Discord. Or fellow YouTubers and things like that I know might be interested in playing. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, again, get on Patreon or join the Discord and you can hear more about that. Now, the thing that brought this up and got me thinking about this recently was I've been talking with Roll Stats about possibly running a Rifts game eventually. I'm somebody who started with Palladium Books back in 1997, and I've never run a Rifts game. I've run other Palladium games many times, but I've never run a Rifts specific game. I've played in it quite a bit, but I thought it would be cool to, try to run that for a one-shot or maybe even a couple different one-shots of Rifts because there's so much you can do with that. So it just got me thinking, like, is there interest in this from people to play a random system once a month or things like that. So, again, I'm obviously interested, so, that's not an issue, but would you guys be interested in once a month or so being either watching or playing in a one shot of a system maybe you're not familiar with?
Yeah, I'd be down under a couple conditions, one of which, if it's a system I don't know how to play or is complicated, the DM better be able to hold my hand through it. Or it's an easy system to learn. Those would be my things. I could go on and on about how I dislike Starfinder.
I've never played Starfinder, so I don't know anything about that. One of the things I do when I do a one shot is I offer up pre-generated characters. I hate going to a one-shot of a new system and being expected to make my own character. I also don't like sitting through session zeros if I'm only going to play a single session of the game. To me, it's like all this front-end work for a game that 2-3 hours, it's just not... It just seems like a lot of extra work to me. But I don't know. Maybe I'm unique in that sense. Peter, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch a one shot. I mean, depending on what system and depending on what night of the week it was, because I'm pretty full as far as games go.
Never.
But I would probably watch it, the video, certainly, just to see how it went.
Okay. Um, are you guys the type of people who are interested in trying new systems, or are you pretty happy with the systems you have and have dabbled in?
I'm always interested in new systems because there'd be some mechanic I can steal.
Yeah.
So,
What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar for the same reason. I'll occasionally just sit in on a local game. Is like, what are other people doing that I'm not, or that I could.
Yeah.
And one, it's just like a lot of times, I can't fully grasp how a system influences how the game is played or like the story being told, but it absolutely does. And like I like experiencing that.
Yeah.
Like really the only systems I have experiences with is D&D style. So that includes any D&D edition or Pathfinder or that kind of stats and roll a D20. I guess most D20 systems could be grouped together. Someone prove me wrong, but like, and then like I've also played a couple D6 systems, and then Dread's totally different, where you pull from the tower, and just like how it totally changes, like how the story plays out. So
Right.
yeah, I'm very intrigued by new systems and like
Dread. So Dread is an interesting one because right now, like we don't in my house, we don't game in person with any of our friends right now, or even our family. We just right now we're in this whole bubble from the rest of the world. That's kind of how we treat things for the most part. But Dread, I think, would be fun to try in person. Like once all this stuff goes a little bit back to normal, like that would I would try that at least once. And it's just a Jenga tower, right, where you pull blocks.
yeah. And if you want to try it online, I'll share what I use for.
Oh, there. Yeah. How do you
online
do that
Jenga.
online? Does each person have to have their own tower? Like, it feels like the suspense wouldn't be as present. Do you know what I mean?
It's like I gotta find the.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, like to me, just that because I was thinking about that when you suggested that on Twitter the other day or whatever, and I was like, I don't know if I would feel like as under pressure as normal, especially like if it starts to wobble for you or whatever. Like nobody else is there to really witness it or to they'll hear it when it happens, but I guess you could put the camera on it too. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's been a while since I used it. It's an old Flash thing, so it don't really work no more.
Oh, that's okay.
Never mind.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's mostly what I want. The one thing about it, like trying new systems, because I am a sucker for it. I'm not one of those people who's like, I got to try all the systems. Like that's not how I am. But there are a couple that I get when I start to hear about them. It sounds intriguing enough, and then I'm like, okay, I want to try that. And then I make the mistake of getting excited about what I've heard, and I start buying it. And then I'm like, well, I got this game I'm never gonna play. And I go down that rabbit hole. And it's something I wish I did not do, because like I said, I've invested in a lot of games that I'm probably never going to play. And even in the past, I've purchased games, and then within like a couple of years, I've just sold them because I knew I was never going to play them. Marvel Heroic by Margaret Weiss, for example, was one of them. Dead Rain, which was a Palladium zombie game I knew I'd never play. I got rid of that, So there's been a few others, but those ones stand out because I was like really excited about, and then didn't even hang on to them for more than a couple of years, and was like, I'll sell them. So one of the things you brought up, Dave, was ways to decide your attributes in, say, like D&D, Pathfinder, whatever. And I had seen your post in the D&D group the other day about the unique stat arrays, which I mentioned. I was like, I got those on my website, all like whatever combinations of them. And you're like, no, I like doing it. I'm like, okay, whatever, do your thing, man. So you want to name each unique one, right? From that stat array. Was that one of the first things you were thinking about?
I don't know if I'll go with every single one, but because a lot are similar.
Yeah.
But if I can get them into groups, and name a couple of them, it's just like a fun side project for me.
The mundane, and it's like just all 13s or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's a better name. Like I was kind of, yeah, like there's one where it's like 3 13s and 3 12s.
Yeah.
That one's either like the multi-classer or the mundane.
Yeah.
Because if you pick the right, well, pick human, now you can multi-class into anything you want with those stats. Like you meet the prerequisites for everything.
Yeah.
There's standard array is in one, but I was like, well, if the standard array has a name, the other ones should. And I just
How
figured,
much
like,
sleep have you lost over this, by the way?
No, not at all. Does it show?
I would like if this got into the back of my head, I'd probably lose a couple hours of sleep.
Yeah. But like I figured I'd start with the most extreme one, 3 15s and 3 8s.
Yeah.
And the group I posted to is my favorite for coming up with names, for asking people, hey, what would you name this?
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the group.
Was it the uncensored group or was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forget which. I have a list of like 75 D&D Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And what rules and stuff they allow and what to post.
Oh, nice.
But that's the one that I've had the least trouble with. I can get away with the most.
Interesting.
In terms
that's the one group that like
share.
removes the most of my stuff when I post stuff.
They don't like self-promotion or like
Right.
any outside links if they think it can, if it's like obviously yours.
Yeah. Which is
but if
weird
it's
for an
just, like,
uncensored group, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, for just like conversation pieces,
Yeah.
I've had the most success in that
Yeah.
one, minus the few.
The
trolls.
jerks.
Yeah.
There's always someone who makes a comment like, "What's the point of doing that?" Because I want to. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. No, so I don't even use point buy usually. So for example, when I have a game starting, I offer it up to my players if they want to do the point buy. I have that sheet of paper in person, so people can use it. If they want to just use the standard that's in the book, or if they want to roll 4d6, I let them. Now, I would love, and I've talked about this with Bill, I would love to do a 3d6 down the line 5e campaign. Love that. I would totally be cool with that. I've heard of
say
people,
that now until you get 3s and 4s.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, like you said, you do a minimum. Like, no, skip that. Throw the minimum out.
I guess I'm too nice.
Now, in old
I always
editions,
restrict.
well, see, in old editions, I understand in the rules there's minimums for classes. So I've always said do 3d6 down the line and just whatever the stat minimum needs to be, just bump the stat to that number. Like, if strength has to be a 13, okay, your strength's 13 and everything else is just like you rolled it. Like, that's how I would probably do it if I was running something old school and if I felt the need to stay on those minimums. But personally, I'd be like, nope, you got a 7 for strength. That's your strength. Like, come up with a reason why your strength is so poor as a fighter. Like, because it doesn't matter too much. But Roll Stats says 5e challenge mode for real. But yeah, no, I've heard of people doing rolling a d20 and just that's it, and that's their stats. That gets you some crazy like variance there. Obviously 4d6 drop the lowest, but I've also heard people doing that with re-rolling ones because they want like high-end characters. I would not do that probably. I would have to have a crazy campaign concept to do something like that,
Yeah.
What is it? Another one's like you start automatically with a 10 and you roll like a 1d8 or a 1d6. I can't remember how they do it, but I've seen that before. You could do like a 1d6 plus 2 if you really wanted to get, again, crazy numbers, high numbers across the board. There's a lot of ways you could do it.
Yep.
But I think it just depends on what your like campaign concept's going to be. And, again, you got to take into account what the group wants too, I think.
That was I like collecting the random ways. I think, how many let me unfilter something. I got you, as you might assume, a spreadsheet up right now.
Yeah.
Um,
6 plus 2d6. I've seen that.
yeah.
You know, all over the place.
Yeah, I got like so I have a bunch in here. So I run what's the average number you'll get, what's the standard deviation, of course, 1d20. Even restricted between 6 and 18, the standard deviation is almost 5, which is nuts. What's the percent chance of like having just of one of your numbers being one of your stats having a 0 modifier?
Yeah.
Apparently it's 10%, and this is all within my restricted thing. What's the percent chance of having a positive modifier? 45. What's the percent chance of having a non-negative? What's the percent having a negative? What's the percent of having a -2 mod? 1d20 down the line, even restricted with the lowest number being 6. There's still a 35% chance of one of your stats having a -2 modifier.
So you're gonna probably have 2 of them.
yeah. That's exactly right. Because like 16.6 repeating is
right.
one stat.
But then you'd probably have a couple that are like really high too, though.
Yeah. But there's 15% chance of you having a +4 mod. But I like looking at that stuff because, as you were saying, it depends on the group and what the players want or what type of campaign you're running. And I really feel like I'd be able to group rolling methods into, like, almost make a questionnaire. Like, are you going for gritty? Are you going for, I don't know, realistic? Or I don't know what the criteria would be, but I feel like I could make a calculator where it spits out 3 rolling methods and be like, try one of these, and it'll get you what you want. Do you want to play superheroes? Just, here's this one.
Do you like dabbling with systems and like, not dabbling with systems, but like system tweaking and homebrewing rules and stuff? Is that fun to you?
Yeah, because I've often wanted to make my own, like take a video game I like and convert it into tabletop. One of my most recent, or not most recent, but newer shows on YouTube that I like, I think is called Table Pop, where they just take a random, let me double check. They just take a random thing and make a tabletop system out of it. Let me see.
That sounds interesting. That sounds like something I would be interested in. I love tweaking systems and like.
Yeah, let me see.
I never homebrew like my home games really, but I like to mess around with the stuff and theory craft like systems and it's always been interesting to me.
Like I watched one. They made an RPG based off of the show The Great British Bake Off.
Okay. Yep.
Other ones are the Garfield comics.
Okay.
A wholesome version of Batman, whatever that means.
I think that's like 60s Adam West Batman.
Yeah, they made a Golden Girls RPG, a Mario Kart RPG.
Nice.
They made a Sex and the City RPG. Like, they do some stupid stuff, but Shrek in RPG. Like, I kind of, as silly as that is, I mean, it's for a show, but I do like that concept of like take a thing and turn it into a group storytelling mechanic. Essentially.
Yeah. I've always wanted to make my own system. One day I will make a system and put it out for the world, like just for the hell of it. I know I will, because like I've started a couple different ones that I have in Google Docs. One of them I shared multiple times in my Discord. I've written like 40 pages like in a Google Doc for this one. But yeah, like, so one of the things recently that I found that I liked, and I actually felt like I like the way Pathfinder does attributes. Like, you get stuff from your ancestry. It's no longer rolling. It's like, oh, you get this many perks, and it tells you like a specific 1 or 2 that you have to put a rank in, right? Based on your ancestry, your background, and your class. Like, it makes so much sense to me that, like, okay, my character grew up as a blacksmith. obviously I probably have somewhat, like somewhat of a dexterity because I'm used to, I don't know if that's actually the attribute you get a bump in, but it makes sense to me that from your background, you'd be able to do something a little bit better than somebody who doesn't have that background, right?
Yeah.
Same thing for your class. Like if I'm a fighter, for example, clearly I have some strength because I'm used to, wielding heavy things and, whatever. So that makes complete sense to me. So I almost feel like a mix of the two would be kind of cool. Like maybe, you rather than starting at 10 and then you just get all your stuff from these different choices you make, what if you roll a d6, write down the line, one for each of them. So there's your base stat. And then based on your choices, it bumps those things up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might be kind of cool too.
The direction I thought you were going was like, okay, so you get a bonus, but the bonus is determined randomly. Like, how good of a blacksmith were you? Like, sure, you get the blacksmith profession and you
Right.
get its bonuses, but how good are your bonuses going to be?
You could do something like that though too. Like so say you do that, right? A 1d6 down the line to determine your attribute. Like so you could have a 1 in something right off the bat. So now the choices you make, you're going to be like, well, I got to get that up to at least a minimum of like an 8, right? So now you're really screwed in having to do this. Or maybe you do 2d6 down the line and then the rest is determined from picking things. But maybe instead of like a background giving you a 1 rank in these things, maybe it gives you a 2 rank. So that
Yeah.
you could
Like
choose.
1d4.
Yeah, you could choose like 1 to 4 from here, or from there. I don't know how you would do it necessarily because this idea literally just popped into my head like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
But
we gotta
I'm
workshop
sure.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure like with some tweaks and stuff, it could be really cool.
It'll work, man.
And mathematically work. you know.
Because that's what bothers me about. I mean, they get it right. Backgrounds in 5e do it right. Like they kind of have that thing of like, well, I took this background, that means I'm good at these things and I have these features. But like I personally don't like using backgrounds in 5e.
Really?
Because person's like, yeah, well, more for the like features that it gives you.
Yeah.
Like let me talk to the king.
retainers.
Yeah.
Or,
like let me talk to the
could-
king. King's
yeah.
not seeing anybody. Well, I took the noble background, so like he would talk to me. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I do hate
not
when
from
players
here.
do that. They're like, no, my thing says I always can do this. And it's like, no, like you're not bypassing like the world's rules because of a mechanic. Like, come on, guys. Yeah, I hate when people do that. Or the Thieves Guild. Like, nope, I know where. Like, I've never been to this town before, but just because I can read Thieves' Cant, I know that every single sign in here has some kind of chip in the wood, and it tells me where to go to find the Thieves Guild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that stuff does bother me a little bit. So I'm with you on that. I think it's a cool idea to offer things like that, but I kind of wish rather than it being a definitive, this is what happens, I kind of wish there was a little bit more gray area with it, where it's like there is a chance that this happens, rather than just this is what you get.
Yeah, but where it does get right is the extra proficiencies or possible skill boosts depending on the system. Like that's I think that's cool.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That pretty much covers the rolling methods and stuff, right? Did that kind of answer your question on there?
Yeah, the only weird one that came up from my group post was a guy suggested take the list of 65 and have players roll on that table
to see what they get.
And that's the array that they get. And I was like, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's completely random, but also mathematically fair.
Right. Because no matter what, it's still the same points.
Yeah, so I might experiment with a group on that one day just because it'd be funny.
The thing that I have experienced with the standard array or the point buy or whatever is a lot of players feel underpowered with that, right? Because like if you roll, you have a chance of getting an 18, right?
Yep.
Technically, there is a small chance you might have an attribute of 20 in 5e at level 1.
Yep.
Yeah, like whatever. But some people have a problem with that. Personally, I just like leaving things up to chance.
Yeah,
so that's why I do like to roll. But yeah, like, so what I always do is I let my players roll or choose the point buyer array. If they decide to roll, we do 4d6, drop the lowest. If they end up with really bad stats, like really bad, just like the book says, then I'll let them choose point buyer standard array after that. Or I let them roll a second time. But if they roll a second time, they have to take what they rolled. No questions about it. I don't care if it's worse. They get what the second roll was. And so far, I don't think anybody's ended up with worse rolls the second time. Yeah. But most people just stick with the first roll anyway and don't do the standard array or point buy in my home games. So
I like leaving things to chance so much. I've rolled up to tables with these guys before.
Yep.
Where they say, race and class.
I have those and the alignment dice. Race, class, and alignment dice for the core PHB. I actually do stuff in my games as a DM too with traps. So I got a trap die.
Oh, I need a trap die.
It's cool. Monsters. I can't see it because it's not focused. But for example, it's got, monstrous humanoid, giants, animal vermin, things like that. Treasure. So it's got like gems, art, coins, mundane items, magical items. And then I also have a weather die. So it's got like clear skies. Overcast.
You used to have a weather die.
I used to. No, it's still.
It's windy.
I have a yes or no die rather than just leaving it up to evens or odds. I've got yes or no.
Oh, I like that.
So yeah, this one's cool. And then for prep, I have. Oh, I also have a hit location die. So that's cool. Yeah. And then I have for prep, I have like I don't do challenge ratings, so I don't use this anymore. But it's like challenge -2 or up to a +3 and as low as -2. But I do use this one. So this one says higher level, lower level, equal level. So I'll do that, and then I'll spitball like off of my head. Like it's easy to say lower level. Like, oh, okay, it's literally like got no hit points. It doesn't hit very hard. Things like that.
Those are cool. Where'd you get them? I gotta get me a pair.
Gen Con 50. So any of the dice booths at Gen Con pretty much have it, I think. I want to say it was a Chessex booth, but Chessex doesn't sell it on their site. There's a website, if you look up like class dice, D&D 5e class dice, you should be able to find the rest through one of those websites. I just don't remember which one I've seen it on. Roll Stats says I have a magic 8-ball. I wish I would have known we could roll stats when I was making Saul. I don't know why you didn't know that, Bill. I've always said roll some stats, man.
You didn't let roll stats?
I guess not.
That is blasphemy. You should feel shame.
I don't feel shit. Your next character, you can roll your stats.
How dare you?
And if you do 3d6 down the line, maybe we'll come up with something fun for you. I don't know. Like letting you die after, a couple minutes.
Mercy kill.
Yeah, mercy kill. So mechanics from other systems that are fun to use. So if I like cherry picking things, is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, maybe. And it's just good, cool thought experiments.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was, so I'm not a fan of Savage Worlds right off the bat. I've talked about this before. For me, there's just a lot of gimmicks that aren't intuitive and don't necessarily mesh well with each other. Like, I don't know why I'm using a deck of cards for initiative, but then I'm using another deck of cards for like weird special abilities. And then over here, I'm now using, I'm rolling 2 dice, but I'm only using the results of one of those dice, and I have to keep track of which one's high. Like, I don't know. Anyways, but I think there are some cool things from Savage Worlds. Like, so one of the things you can do, it's an extra, is the deck of cards that lets you do like special things. The deck is specially for Savage Worlds types of games, I think. I've only used it in a couple games I've played in, not all Savage Worlds games I've played in, but it might let you do a re-roll, or it might add to a roll, or things like that. And it's completely random. DM shuffles it up, dishes them out at the start of a session. You can use them whenever you want, kind of thing. I always thought that was really cool. Remembering you have it and the situation that it, you know, works in and stuff like that can be kind of tricky. The other thing I loved from Savage Worlds was exploding damage dice. So if you roll max damage on the die, you roll again and add to it. Love that. Like, to me, this makes any game lethal if you really think about it. If you keep rolling the max damage, like,
Yep.
you know, you can, by luck, be really lethal. And I think porting that over to something like D&D, where if you also crit, you roll double damage dice, might be kind of cool, because now who knows, you know, how much damage you can do.
It sucks when you get a critical and like, cool, 2 1s for damage. Nice.
That does suck. I've never done that, but I have had players do that.
Yeah, exploding dice feels fun as a player, especially if especially I feel like streaks happen way more often than statistically possible.
Especially if you have a D4. Like, you could roll a D4 over and over and over again. Like, there's such a high chance with that. It's like, I wonder, like, maybe the D4 is better than my D8 sometimes. Especially since it doesn't roll. It just hits flat and stays. Like, you could try, but it's like, you know.
Yeah, I've seen some people try to game the D4.
Yeah. Now, I've never tried to game. In fact, I wish my D8s were 1 through 4 twice, just because I like rolling a 8-sided die way more than a 4. There's nothing satisfactory about D4 for me.
I might have one of them, actually.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I've known some people who have those. Like, it's so much more satisfactory. Like, I don't know. So that's something that I one day would like to do. Or if I ever make a system, I might just get rid of the D4 altogether. Like, nope, no D4s in my system. Screw that. We're not rolling crappy dice.
I'll support that.
There you go. Well, and then we'll roll a lot more D12s just for the hell of it too. But I'm not making the D12 the resolution mechanic. Screw that. It'd probably still be a D20 system. Because again, a lot of people crap on the D20 system. I like the D20 system. It's what I'm used to. I feel like everybody knows how to do it. It's, you know, it's a meme in itself. Like, everyone knows what a D20 is. Like, you know.
I like it. It makes the math easy. Everything's in increments of 5%.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Like,
if I'd really, really dumb it down and ignore a lot of stuff.
Right. Because, like, once you have, like, modifiers and stuff, is it really 5%? Not really, because you're going into numbers higher than 20.
But yeah, you could still use 5% as a
baseline
gauge.
idea. Number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get you close enough.
Exactly. The math is easy enough for someone like me to be like, nope, I know I have about this much of a chance of succeeding or failing. Like, you know.
Yeah. I'll look at a monster stat and I'll be like, ooh, my player's average hit rate is only going to be like 10%. I should their AC is a little too high. I'll lower their AC.
It's funny you say
boost
that.
the HP a bit.
It's funny you say that, because I don't even try to think like that, but like subconsciously it just
it happens.
I feel like it happens so quick for me that, like, the people that I don't think pick up on that quickly struggle with balancing encounters.
Yeah.
I do that in quotes because I've met a few people who've complained about 5e and trying to, like, make deadly encounters or, you know, whatever. And it's like, but the math is so quick and easy. Like, if I want to challenge my players, I will, like, right now, like, I could tell you based on their bonuses, like, or even an approximation of what their bonuses might be, I know what I could throw at them. Like, like, oh, AC this many hit points, and this, you know?
Yeah, or you could change stuff almost on the fly. Like, but, you know, while everybody's rolling initiative, you already go, okay, well, the book says their AC is 15. I'm going to make it 16.
Right.
Like,
yep. Yeah, like, I feel like I could wing a 5e session with no prep whatsoever and have some difficult encounters, moderate, like, I feel like I could easily sit down and do a game like that. Now, it probably won't be the most interesting because there's no story to it, but but I could run some encounters that way. Roll stats. Tell me, what are these balanced encounters of which you speak? Well, Bill, I don't care about balance, so that's not my point. My point is, if I want a certain feel to my encounters, I can get it across easily.
I'm not even sure I know what balance means. It's just, should this encounter kill my players? Yes or no? Like,
Well,
did they get in over their head or not?
Like, what's the intent of the encounter?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So when someone so balance is when somebody plans to run a deadly encounter, they look at the book, they say, okay, let's do all this stupid math that doesn't work because it doesn't take into account half the stuff my character has. Doesn't take into account equipment, doesn't take into account magic items, doesn't take into account feats, doesn't take into account spell selection, resistances, none of that stuff.
Parties of more than 4 people.
Yeah, like, well, it kind of does now, I think. I don't know. I don't pay attention to it because I don't use it. But I've had DMs bitch and moan about the math of CRs in 5e since it's come out. And a couple of them I've tried to help, but they couldn't shake that, no, I should be able to compute it by the numbers according to the book, and it should come out with a deadly encounter or a moderate encounter. But it doesn't work that way for 5e. Now, I can't comment on the Pathfinder encounter thing because I haven't run anything using that or any of that. So, but 5e, throw it out the window. Don't use CRs to try and figure it out. Like, just straight up don't. Take into account your players' abilities, their classes, their races, and then look at your monsters, their AC, their hit points, their resistances, immunities, and their things that they're good at. Like, maybe they do poison or maybe they do psychic damage. That's about all you have to do to figure it out, in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to get into it here, but if you guys are interested, I'll do a video on it in the future about exactly what I do if I'm trying to make a certain feel of an encounter. That'll be a quick, easy video I could easily do. So
Okay, good. I'll be looking forward to seeing that this weekend.
it won't be this weekend.
But yeah, when I'm doing that, I look at both the players and the enemies.
Yeah.
What's their average damage output? Okay, and then what's the average
chance they're going
to
to hit
hit
something
or to save?
Mhm.
How many rounds might that go?
Yeah.
I'll also look at what their crit average might be.
Mhm.
'Cause I mean, like, there's always that chance. I don't want to. Like, if an encounter is supposed to be
Actually, I don't even take that into account.
tough, I look at it because if an encounter is supposed to be tough but not necessarily destroy them if the dice are truly in my favor, I might look at the crit average damage and be like, oh, can the average damage, like, one hit KO someone? I might make a small tweak.
Right.
But I won't eliminate that ability to KO completely.
Right.
I just don't want, like, your average crit
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, I just, again, there was one DM in particular, a former friend of mine, who would complain after every game session. Every game session complained about the CR stuff. And, like, his big gripe was, no, these people spent years designing this game. I should be able to do the math, and it outputs this type of encounter. And no matter how many times I explained to him what I just said about the things that it doesn't take into account, he could not accept that fact. And, like, reached out to other people who had the same problems as him, who'd never figured it out either, and was given crap advice.
Just got to ignore it, man.
And kept trying to do it. And I'm like, dude, you can't. And he was running a published module. Like, you're running a published module. Just run it as it's written and don't worry about that crap. Like when it comes to the encounters, like, don't worry about, like, adding monsters or removing them, or, like, screw it. Like, let the players pick up on the clues and run from the thing or whatever, like is in the book, if that's the case.
And in the end, it's the dice are totally random. Some of my deadliest encounters that I have ran have just gone in my favor.
Right.
As the DM, like, like they on paper should have been simple encounters, but the players were getting terrible rolls and I was getting really, really good ones.
We'll stop using kobolds.
Yeah. Well,
Pack tactics is great. I will never get over that.
the
wolves have it too,
The main encounter I'm thinking of, they went up against a bunch of, they're basically kobolds, but gremlins. They're from some other third-party book, but they have an ability where if they're not attacking, they can force people to do a wisdom save or trip and fall prone. And just no one, even though the DC was like 12, no one ever made the save, and they would just keep falling over themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
It was a hilarious encounter, but it almost killed them. And it was supposed to be this just like, oh, while you're traveling, here's 20 minutes of combat. Oops, an hour later, we're almost all dead.
See, but that's okay.
The
other thing too is like you might have a really tough encounter planned, and the players are just they outsmart it.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Let them. Like, if I understand, it's fun to challenge players sometimes, but if your players come up with a really good idea, it's usually more fun for the group if you just go with it. Even if you don't think it's the best idea, but they all think, oh, that's a great idea. Let them have their victory. Like, let them, sometimes let them do it. That's the other thing. A lot of the stuff is very opinion based. I've noticed. Like, I've done stuff in games where I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, there's no way this is. And then the DM's like, that was stupid. And I'm like, wait, first of all, you don't tell me my idea is stupid. Just play it out. Like, because now all that does is make you second guess even trying to do something out of the box. Or,
yeah.
And I don't, so I hate when a DM tells you something is a stupid idea.
Yeah.
The group can tell you it's stupid. Like, if I'm a barbarian and I come up with this idea and the paladin in the group says that's a stupid idea, that's fine. Tell me it's a stupid idea. And I'm going to tell you your idea is stupid next. Even if it's not stupid, just because I'm role playing.
Yeah, well, you'd be stupid to listen to a paladin anyway.
See? Thank you. But yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, like the whole, we kind of got off base on the mechanics, but
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but by the way, welcome DMG. Yeah, no, there's a lot of a lot of mechanics I think you can cherry pick from games. I like in Dragon Age and Fantasy Age how if you roll doubles on the dice, you can go to the charts and do something cool based on the scenario, whether it's a spell or it's in combat or it's a social encounter. I like the idea of having like these points that it gives you to then you can spend the points on this chart. Like something might cost 2 points. Now you can do like a whirlwind attack or something, or hit 2 enemies rather than just one, or things like that. So I think that's something that could be incorporated into other games. Trying to look at some of the other games I have on my shelf. Off the top of my head, that's about it that I can think of cherry picking from other games. Fantasy Flight, I like the dice narrative of those. That's always cool too. With the triumphs and setbacks and all that. I can't remember what they're all called, but that's a fun game to play. Roll stats. You know what, Juice? That's just a stupid statement. What statement was stupid? That the DM shouldn't tell you you're stupid? Yeah, what about you? Any mechanics you guys can think of from any games that really stand out?
Nothing in particular, but a lot of other systems, they'll have you have to roll below a number, and that means success. Or like you have to roll underneath your stat. I think a lot of D6 systems are like that.
The old D20 was like that too.
Yeah, and a part of me, I have a love-hate relationship with that because it's very easy. You don't need to worry about modifiers or anything. It kind of simplifies the character sheet. But at the same time, I hate it because no, I want to roll high.
Right.
I want to roll high.
Yep.
But I can't quite figure out a way to reverse that, where remove the modifier, but roll.
It doesn't even necessarily remove the modifier. I mean, you can use the modifier still on your attacks and everything, right? It's just for the skill rolls you don't in those situations, I think. In most.
Yeah, and I'm speaking generally.
Yeah.
the systems where you have to, roll under instead of roll above.
Right. So because DMG's here, I'm going to shout out his game system. He has the 7D system. It's a dice pool. We actually played it on this channel a couple years ago, and it was a lot of fun. It's actually a pretty
So it
simple.
doesn't use a 7-sided die?
It uses all-sided dice, all of them.
Ooh.
So the idea is, if you are really bad at something, you roll one die, and you have to roll a 1. A 1 on any die means success. The better you get, the more dice you roll. So
Ooh,
that's the gist of it in a nutshell. Now, again, it's been a couple years since I played it. I'm not well versed on the system, but that's it. Just again, how easy is that? If you sit down to play a game with someone and you tell them all you gotta do is roll a 1 on the die, I'll tell you how many to roll. If you have a skill or something, you'll know roughly what you do, that kind of thing, right? So your best odds are on a D4, right? And the more D4s you have, the better you're going to be, right?
I like that.
D20 is the hardest, 5% chance, but the math is whack, right? Because it's like, oh, what if you're rolling a D20 6 times, as opposed to like a D6 3 times, you know what I mean?
I like that a lot because I don't know the system. I'll have to look it up now. But I just picture, someone with a handful of random die, like 4s, 6s, D20, and just like throwing it down. Be like, did I win?
Right. Now, I don't think you're going to mix die types, but I could be wrong. I don't think we ever did. I think it was just always like, okay, your skill in this is like a D6, and based on the difficulty and this, roll this many. Like, that's how I think I remember it.
I'd be surprised if it mixed up dice, but
yeah,
that's what I want to do now.
You could. Maybe I'll bug him about running that again sometime for like another.
I'll have to say I'm in because I did play a 1-shot with him, and that was a lot of fun. So.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. He runs a fun game for sure. Paula liked playing in it too. I think that was her first online game. Well, no, she played one other campaign online, but that was her first online game other than that, and she had a lot of fun. I think that was the start of her opening up to playing something other than D&D online. So
I know a lot of systems have we have action points. I don't know where that came from. I think like Eberron, or there's a lot of systems that have
like hero points, action points, story points,
and I've found that to be really inspiring. Players come up with some really interesting ideas.
Yeah.
And this most recent game I was running, I was trying to describe it, and I said, blah blah blah, change the narrative of the story. So one of my players said, okay, it says change the narrative of the story. So I've got two groups playing in the same world, but they played on different nights. He said, I want to troll the other group. This is what I want to do. I said, okay. So it became something where they could really come up with something creative. I think that makes that really inspires them to do stuff, not just can I re-roll.
I love that. So in my BlackRock game session 0, I told my players when they have inspiration, if they want to, they can change something about the story. I call them story points. And nobody's done it. Actually, I should remind my 2 new players about that because I think they would do it. They just played in the Monster of the Week game, Tom and Laura. And I think they would definitely use their inspiration for that rather than re-rolls. So we could get some crazy off-the-wall stuff that just screws up my whole campaign anyway.
I might have to consider that. I like that.
Because the other night we were playing Tourney of Dragons and I was fighting that dude and I was trying to think. I was like, no, we don't use action points in this game, because I was trying to come up with something creative to fight this guy, but I was like, maybe I should have, just gone with it and see
you know what?
Said, but
I don't think I mentioned that in that campaign, but we can do that. I'm gonna let everyone know. Bill, you're here, so you're hearing it too. You guys can do that in Tyranny of Dragons. If you want to use your inspiration to change something, like maybe the NPC you guys are talking to, or whatever. Maybe he owes you a favor, whatever. we can do that. I'm totally for that.
See what I want to do now with after hearing being Drake's action point thing is because a mechanic in my game is I've got a D20 where there's only 20 for special occasions, and there's a mechanic I use is if people can give if everyone in the group or that's present gives enough of their inspiration points or inspiration dice, then they can force a roll to happen with the D20 that's only 20s. But I like the idea of using that same group point donation towards changing a critical thing, like just making something happen or changing something versus a reroll or a roll on something.
Yeah,
I do like the chaos that might bring.
Yeah, for the player that mentioned that, he said he hadn't used his points, and sometimes they just don't use the points in the session. So I've gotten to the point where, okay, you've got them left, you need to use them. And he said, okay, so for the other group, this is what I want to happen. I want a xenomorph to pop out of some guy's chest in their space station.
it's like Spaceballs.
Yeah,
Hello, hello,
So of
baby.
course that's what happened the next session to them.
Right, that's cool. Yeah, I like that, especially it sounds like a lot of work to me, but I love how you incorporate other groups too in the same like universe or world or whatever. That sounds really cool. I like that they mess with each other too. One of the things too I was thinking earlier when we were talking, it was after the fact, but exploding dice. So Palladium books, when you're rolling your stats to create your character, if you get a 16, 17, or 18, because it's 3d6, that's how you roll your stats. But if you get a 16, 17, or 18, you get to roll another d6 and explode it. And then, again, the same thing, but on that die, it has to be a 6. So you could end up with like a 20-something stat. Now, the downside to Palladium is that you get nothing if you have under 16. Like, you don't get any bonuses or anything. Like, it's just a pointless attribute and means nothing to most of the mechanics of the game. But that might be kind of cool to do in a D&D campaign as well. Like, all right, guys, we're going hardcore mode, 3d6 down the line. Oh, by the way, if you get 16, 17, or 18, I'll let you roll another d6, and that die will explode on a 6. Like, so you could end up with somebody with, like, I don't know, fire giant strength at first level rather than the under the 18 or less. And that would really get crazy, wouldn't it? Talk about balance. Throw that shit out the window.
Yeah, when Stars Without Number, the stats really aren't important. It's more your skills and where you put your skills.
Right. Savage Worlds is like that too. Your actual attributes are mostly meaningless, but you want them high because they make putting ranks in your skills cost 1 instead of 2. Like if you, for example, your strength might be a D8. So what that means is any skill, if you go up to a D8, so it starts at D4, D6, D8, will only cost 1 point. To make your skill a D10 will now cost 2 because D8 was your highest attribute. So I kind of liked it in that regard with Savage Worlds. Made a lot of sense to me. Because it's not saying you can't do something at a high level. It's just saying it's not as intuitive. It's a little bit harder to get that to a maximum, you know. So I always liked that. But yeah, story points are cool too, though. I'm all for that. And I like it when my players do take agency sometimes and just spur of the moment, like, oh yeah, like my character knows this person. Like, okay, cool, let's go with it, you know. Now, if you're gaming the game and trying to just manipulate it in your favor all the time, that's when it gets a little crazy. But I like that, you know, for story purposes, adding to it. I think that's fun. So this next topic, I don't have any familiarity with it. It's the newest Unearthed Arcana. I did see a little bit of Nerd Immersion's video on it, where he said that he actually wants to play a ranger for once, and he's interested in playing a monk again for the first time in a long time. Have you read it yet, Dave? The Unearthed Arcana?
I would say skimmed,
Okay.
read through. I don't use the Unearthed Arcana too often. unless it like pertains. Like if I was building a monk or as I was playing a ranger again, I'd probably read it in full.
Yeah.
But yeah, I read through most of it, and it's interesting. I feel like it's similar to other unearthed arcanas of like. I mean, they say it right at the top. This is playtest material. It kind of feels like playtest material, where like it feels like a V1.
Yeah, they said they're going to tone it down if it comes out, though. That was weird. Basically, they admitted it's probably OP, and they didn't do that in other ones, from my understanding. I actually have a binder, because I used to print out all the Unearthed Arcanas as they came out, and I was like, yep, we can use it, and nobody ever used it. It wasn't until I started using D&D Beyond that all of a sudden I have players that always want to use the Unearthed Arcana. And now I'm like, I don't want to use the Unearthed Arcana from the D&D Beyond. Like,
It's easily accessible now.
Right. Because a binder in the middle of the table during character creation is not.
That's intimidating. Yeah.
Right. I don't want to be that person that goes for the special stuff. No. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. It sounds like everything's like dragon based though.
Yeah. What was it? Monks get dragon breath basically.
That's cool.
Which is interesting. The ranger basically gets a mini dragon or drake as a companion that kind of levels up with them as they go. It kind of feels like what the Beastmaster should have been, kind of deal.
And they've been trying to fix that since day one, it seems.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we really screwed up the Ranger Beastmaster. Let's make another Unearthed Arcana about it.
Yeah, we screwed up this class that a large group of people really love picking just because they get a pet.
Right.
I feel like almost every public group I've played in, there's always been a Beastmaster Ranger just because they wanted some animal to follow them around.
Yeah, they want to play the martial character, but they want to have like an animal companion that can fight and do stuff too. And you can't do that. It's just you have this and you can do this, but you got to give up this so that this one can do something. Like that just doesn't even sound like a cool idea when you even talk about it. I don't know how they did that.
But yeah, nothing special. I just put it on the list because it just came out recently, and we talk D&D. I figured we were like contractually obligated to mention it, and then now we can move on.
So, Wizards of the Coast does not sponsor anything on this channel, so no, there is no obligation. But I am cool talking about it. I like talking about it, and I do still like 5e.
Yeah, I figured
it's still probably my favorite system, to be honest.
Yeah, relevant.
Yeah,
news. And
it sounds cool. Like, I love... You mentioned dragon anything, it makes everything sound so much more badass. Yep. Like, it's just the way it is. And so that off the bat makes me go, oh, okay, maybe I should look into that. So the next step to that, though, is why do you think they're... Like, do you think those are coming out in, like, a new player's handbook? Like, do you think those might come out in a specific setting off the top of your head? I don't know enough about their settings and stuff, but to me, I don't know what it means. I don't know what book those might be in. A Xanathar's Guide to Everything 2?
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
Xanathar's Guide to Dragons?
I mean, that's pretty much Sasha's Cauldron of Everything. I feel like that's Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
That's out now, isn't it?
I forget.
I don't even know because I haven't bought a Wizards product in a while. Whoops.
a part of me with the dragon stuff, my first thought was like, well, it's got dragon in the name. Let's see. I know there are whispers of new settings coming soon. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that might have just changed in the last 2 months.
I heard. Yeah.
if it's the dragon setting, without getting into some lawsuit stuff, the whole Dragonlance deal.
Yep.
But yeah,
crap. We already wrote these. Let's just publish it in Unearthed Arcana anyway.
Right. No, who knows? Maybe it comes out as like what they did with Princes of the Apocalypse, where you had a player's companion. That was a free thing they put up, and it had like the Aarakocra and the Genasi and all that stuff. Maybe they'll do something like that again, and it'll go alongside like an adventure path. That'd be fine. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. Or yeah, like basically just like a digital or a paperback thing. It doesn't need to be a whole
Right.
book.
So do you have any opinions on that, Peter? Or know anything or whatever?
I don't know many things. The Unearthed Arcana? No, I don't. Didn't even know. That's the first time I read it.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I don't think we're really big. What are they called? Theory crafters here.
I love to theory craft, but Unearth, like playtesting
actually
their
play.
stuff for free and, giving them feedback for something I haven't bought in a while. I like 5e. I love playing it, love running my modules on my channel. I think the system is great. I'll probably play it for the next 30 years. I love the system. But I have lost some steam when it comes to like playing it as a player. But I don't know, that could change too. Like I am going to be running a Pathfinder campaign here soon on the channel, and I have started investing into that over Wizards of the Coast products. And so if I start running it and it just doesn't take off for me, kind of like what happened with Pathfinder 1e, I will just abandon it and possibly go back to 5e if I think that's the better system. But I haven't played it enough to make that judgment. It's the jury's still out. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But I do love theory crafting. That's definitely in my wheelhouse. You're better at it. You're way more analytical than me. But I'm pretty. I try to be analytical. I just don't have the math skills to back it up. How about that?
I'm terrible like at math. If you take spreadsheets away from me.
Really?
With functions, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know.
I need my Google Sheets to do anything.
Right. That makes sense. Paula should have been a mathematician. Like my wife, when it comes to math, like she's on point. Like she was in advanced like math classes in high school and all that stuff. So
I'm good at algebra. My sob story from high school is as I excelled in algebra 2, and they're like, you don't need to do pre-calculus. You were top of your class. Just skip straight to calculus. Wow, that was the first class I ever failed. That was at the school. So why did they think that was a good idea to skip a whole year of
right
preemptive calculus?
See, I did the requirements in high school. It was like, okay, algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry. Okay, I don't have to take any other math. Okay, I'm done after like my junior year. I was like, no more math for me.
Yeah, I wanted to be an engineer until that happened to me.
Oh,
I'm out.
So I didn't. In my senior year of high school, I decided I wanted to be a chemistry teacher, and I probably should have kept doing math. And then I went to college and I had to take math again, but I hadn't taken it in like 2 years. So I started taking. Based on my testing, I had to take. It was like math 169 or 159 or something like that, and it's basically the first half of the class is algebra 2 again. So like I remember showing up for class and being like, I know all this, like whatever. We ended up getting around like Thanksgiving and I skipped like 2 classes in a row. Next thing you know, we're doing like matrices. I remember that, but then I don't remember anything after that. I just know like whatever I missed, it was bad. So yeah, because I would have had to take that and then statistics to get an associate's for what I wanted. But chemistry ended up sucking in college, and I decided I didn't want to be a chemistry teacher either. So it didn't matter.
Now you play around with probabilities and dice all week.
Right. I should have just taken stats just because, but I never took that class. But yeah. So that brings us to like the last topic. At least I think this is. Was there another one after note taking, world building, and campaign management tools? Do you remember?
I don't know.
Okay. So I suck at note taking in a game. I'm better as a player, but at the same time, my shorthand notes, I can't ever tell what I've written down like a couple days after the fact. So I've stopped taking notes recently. I might write a name down or something, but that's about it now. So one of the things, and I actually just did a video on how I prep modules, and it's a little bit different than how I prep homebrew stuff. But because I record sessions, makes it really easy to go back and watch stuff and then take notes. So then I can use my pre-game notes with then, as I watch it, what actually happened and what didn't happen. So For me, that's what I do. I use Google Docs for my prep notes when it's homebrew stuff. I don't do it as much with modules. With modules, I've tried using Google Docs for that, but I found like I'll just use D&D Beyond and have the book open in D&D Beyond, and then I'll open the tabs for the monsters and stuff, and then I'll just write some stuff on a pad of paper. Like not much. It's really basic stuff that I probably don't even have to write. I just choose to. I do use World Anvil for world information in my homebrew stuff. I used to use Obsidian Portal. Obsidian Portal was awesome. But it was limiting as well. Like all the paid features were what I really wish I had with Obsidian Portal. But I couldn't shell out the money for like I couldn't justify it. And they did cool stuff where if you made your Obsidian Portal look really cool, you used to be able to win prizes too. That was the other thing that was kind of cool about their stuff. But yeah, so those are the things I used. I've used OneNote. I think that's what it is, Microsoft OneNote. I still use that for world building. Like I'll just put in like I have a list of names for cities or lakes or whatever. I have a bunch of stuff in there, which I haven't updated that in a couple of years, probably like 2 years now. I should probably go back and look at it actually. It'll inspire some stuff. But that's about it, I think.
Oh, I remembered the topic. I wanted help with the meetup group. I wanted to get Roll Stats to talk to me about the meetup group, and he left me again.
Did you guys have something planned and set up for a certain day or something?
Not like officially, but yeah. Yeah, he done ditched me again.
Bill, what's up with that, man? No, I hear you.
Now we got to wait 2 minutes for the chat to catch up. Yeah, I started in terms of tools I used. It drove me nuts to like pay a monthly fee. I hate subscription stuff.
Me too.
Unless it like directly helps me earn more money or is for my business, like I can't.
Yeah, like
I wouldn't be subscribed to anything.
The only things I subscribe to right now that are even remotely RPG related, but they're not really, is Zoom and Adobe. So I can use Photoshop for my thumbnails and Premiere for my videos. I have Sony Vegas, but I am way more into Premiere. It's way better. It took me a minute to figure things out, but once I did, I am a huge fan of Adobe Premiere now. And mine doesn't crash anymore, so that's cool. It used to crash a little bit, and I've heard it crashes for a lot of people, but not for me anymore. So,
but yeah, the tool I've been using, terrible name, but TiddlyWiki is a free like wiki editor kind of thing. I started using that for my campaigns just because I love how it like structures and flows, and they have a bunch of plugins. I'm working with a couple actual plugin developers for the tool on like 5e RPG tools. Okay. We'll hopefully eventually have like a nice package to deliver of like here's a competitor to all these paid programs. We just released it for free. Here, have fun. Because the tool can basically do anything. And like it's been real interesting because I'm terrible at code. And I'm trying to help these guys out. We just got a dice roller working, and all it is, so TiddlyWiki wraps itself in a single HTML file. So as long as you have access to that HTML file and a web browser, it loads your stuff and whatever you're using. So I love, put the HTML file on like Google Docs. Now you have access to it everywhere.
I'm kind of hoping D&D Beyond does more with like campaign management eventually.
Yeah, they're working on that.
Tabletop.
They're only, I would say, maybe a year out from either one of those. They are 100% working on that right now.
I want the tabletop first. Because right now I don't use maps and stuff. Whereas if they were to have a virtual tabletop that has the maps for like all the modules and things like that, that would be amazing. Because then my players mostly use it. You know, I have one player in Tyranny, or not Tyranny, in BlackRock that doesn't. He likes his written piece of paper, but everybody else uses it. And then obviously everyone in my other games uses it. So it would be very easy because you wouldn't have to, like in Roll20, you have to program everything and stuff. That would be great. And then if it can keep track of things like, you know, oh, you've done this much in the module, you know, like maybe it's just like little like chapter boxes on the side for the DM. Be like, yep, we did this encounter, we did this, you know, as you go through the module. That would be really cool. I would love that.
Even if D&D Beyond just had like a shared assets thing, even if they didn't bother with maps or a grid of just like, here's the letter you find and add it to your character.
So they have the art and stuff from the modules. So I'll right click it and save it, and then I bring it into OBS and then I share it, you know.
But like directly in D&D Beyond is
it'd be so much easier. Just be like, okay, tick this box, now all my players can see it. Like that would be awesome. I agree, because that's what you do in Fantasy Grounds. I think it's something like that, where the DM can just go, okay, send this to the players, and now they have the letter. Yeah, and this is not really any management tool, but Roll20 was great as a player when we used that a few years back. We had a DM who was heavily into it. Like he had given us a list of the code that we could copy to make our characters real easy. He had all the assets from like the modules. And so we were able to just jump in, play. It was so nice. That was cool. Whereas my recent experience with Fantasy Grounds was not as positive. One, everybody has to be logged. Like whoever the DM is has to be on at the same time you're putting in your character, no matter what, which I find to be a huge pain in the ass. On top of that, when we were doing it, there was a lot of lag. Sometimes when I would click something to add it to my character, it would add it 3 or 4 times, which was obnoxious. I don't need the same feat 4 times. 1, it doesn't there's nothing stackable. And 2, now my character sheet has this thing 4 times and now I got to delete it. Like it was just a pain in the butt. And I don't know if it's because it was Pathfinder 2E for Fantasy Grounds or if it's because Fantasy Grounds itself is the problem. I don't know.
I would say Fantasy Grounds because I know the team that ported Pathfinder 2E to Fantasy Grounds was really worked hard on getting that set up and getting it good.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard regardless of system, those same problems with Fantasy Grounds.
Gotcha.
And like Fantasy Grounds is really where I started in the virtual tabletop world. And oh my, do I enjoy the hell out of their community, their support team, their development team is light years above and beyond any I've come across. But there's just so like the actual program itself falls short on a lot of those same points that you mentioned. I see talked about everywhere of like, because it relies on how good your own computer is, because you kind of become the host for the game.
Yeah, that's what Roll Stats said. Fantasy Grounds is run locally. Roll20 is run from the cloud.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and if you don't have a beefy computer, a couple people connecting to you with any of those graphics is a real pain.
Yeah. In general, just I think a virtual tabletop can slow your system down too.
Oh yeah.
Like just by itself without a bunch of other people hooking up to it. So yeah, I don't know. I've heard great things about Fantasy Grounds. I've used it once now. Well, if you count character creation, I've been on it like 3 times. It just isn't for me, I don't think. But Roll20, I'll use that any day of the week. Paid version with the Fog of War is great. So, yeah, if somehow, someday, Fantasy Grounds can run smooth, and I understand that's basically saying it's dependent on who's using it. If it can find a way to always run smooth, I'll be all about it.
Yeah, if they made a browser-based version that of their program that was stable, Roll20 would go out of business in a year and a half.
Probably. until D&D Beyond gets their
Yeah.
tabletop going.
Yeah,
and then they're all
will
done.
get there first, probably.
That would hurt those other two so bad, I think, when it comes down to it. Just because 5e is the biggest audience, right? And actually, they are working on. So the creators of D&D Beyond, I believe, are doing some Cortex stuff. Am I right? Next year, the Dragon Prince Netflix series show comes to RPGs, and I think Adam Bradford has been promoting that stuff as well through D&D Beyond stuff. So I think and it's the Cortex system, which I don't know a lot about that, but I believe they might have something to do with that. So maybe we'll get a nice little thing with I don't know if it'll still be D&D Beyond, but then it has this thing, or if it's going to have like an umbrella where D&D Beyond is one spoke and then another, is Cortex. I don't know, but that would be cool. Yeah, so I don't know. So yeah, we've been going for an hour and a half almost. Anything else you guys are interested in talking about, or?
I have to plug Sectors Without Number.
Sectors Without Number?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a site that helps with specifically Stars Without Number.
Okay.
Gives you a grid and lets you put in a lot of different, you can do everything randomly, or you can do it, you can specifically pick what you want. So you're picking like the atmosphere, and if there's, all the different stuff with the planets. There's just a lot of information on there. Let me just in mind. Let's see. Yeah, so like you can name a specific system, and you put notes in, and it will pick. You can randomly pick, or you can select, like, so for this planet has a planet tag of like a cultural power, and it has robots, and it gives you a little bit of explanation, and then like enemies or friends or complications. It's really good, and you can let your players look at it, and you can also block out stuff that they can't see. So they're looking at the same map, but they can't see certain stuff. So that makes a difference, because I can say, go to this grid, like 0503, but I know there's something there, but they don't.
Yeah.
So I would say for any like space kind of traveling game, so for Starfinder, or I don't know, like a Spelljammer or whatever, it would probably work pretty well.
Right. So the chat has now made me think of this. We should totally talk about our DMing setup next time, by the way. Sorry, totally off topic, but Peter, is Stars Without Number your favorite system?
No.
What's your favorite system?
Probably 5e.
5e. Okay. Just curious. Is Stars Without Number up there though, like as one of your tops? Or you just currently have the campaigns going with it?
Yeah, I just currently have the campaigns. I mean, I really like 5e. I just got kind of
tired of it a little bit.
Yeah, I just kept, at least running it, just kind of burned out.
Yeah.
But it really surprised me, because when we were discussing, because I got the two groups, and obviously the one group I told them about Pulp Cthulhu, the other group I gave them the options, and I figured they're just going to play 5e, and they came back with Stars Without Number, and I was like, yeah, I'll run it again. Apparently I didn't do that bad of a job if y'all want to play it again. So
right.
Yeah. Nice.
It's always nice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 5e is my favorite too. For me, a lot of people think this, especially if they watch my older videos. They're like, "Oh, you love Palladium books, right?" And no, I don't love it. Like straight up riffs, none of that. It's not a love. It's not like one of my top systems. None of that. For me, it is nostalgia a bit, and it's just something that got me into it. So it's something I know, and it's easy for me to wing it. Plus, I don't play by the rules anyway. Rules are secondary for me with that system. I don't feel like you can put the rules first with that. Whereas like when I play 5e, rules matter to me. You know what I mean? Because they're easy. It's not hard to follow the rules and have a fun game in 5e for the most part. I mean, I'll ignore some stuff here and there, but with Palladium, it's like, yeah, great, you got stuff on your character sheet, cool. Like, I don't care really. If you want to do something cool and it might not be something on there, we're gonna go with it, you know. Just like looking at the number of attacks you can do and the arbitrary differences of an uppercut compared to like a right hook in damage and number of attacks is stupid. Like, I don't want to differentiate every single type of attack, you know, like it's just ridiculous. So, yeah, I always feel the need to say that because I have some people who just, for the longest time on YouTube, my channel was Palladium Books. Like the first 3-4 years I did videos, you know, when I would talk about stuff, I had a Palladium Books viewpoint, you know what I mean? And so people were like, oh, you're the Palladium guy. But no, I'm not anymore. It's just nostalgia. Like, that's it. And you know, I do like the setting and I do look forward to running it though. So yeah, it's a big book of suggestions, Peter, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, guys, thanks for spending the time with me and chatting, and thanks for supporting the channel. You know, we've obviously been able to invest in some stuff like the art behind me and the picture frames.
Good.
So thanks. But
Your setup looks good.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm still working at it. It's getting there. Just now requires a lot of manual labor of cleaning and organizing. But yeah, guys, thanks again for everything. And you know, we'll be in contact the next couple days. This week we have mini painting twice. So tomorrow I'm gonna make an adventurers how they know each other table. I want to come up with 20 things so that people can roll a d20 and determine how they know the adventurer next to them, the PC next to them. You know, there's charts out there. Pathfinder has a really good one that I've been using for a few years. I want to make my own though. I'm going to use some stuff probably as inspiration from that and some others I've seen. Wouldn't mind adding some goofy things. So tomorrow during the mini painting, we will, you know, hopefully have a chat that'll be helping for when I get stuck or throwing out ideas. I may or may not use them. And yeah, and then on Thursday, hoping the chat will throw out some prompts for an adventure. I want to create like a one-shot adventure. And I think I want to do this from now on during mini painting. Like, we'll still talk about other stuff and have a good time like we always do. And I'll still harass Paula. And I'm sure Roll Stats will still harass me and, you know, make me feel like I'm a terrible mini painter. But I don't know. I just think that'd be cool. So I'm going to have like a Word document open, typing it up, and we'll make it a PDF that I'm going to give to all my patrons, whether you're $1 pledge or more. I'm going to give it to all of them for free, you know, and we'll go from there. And I'll probably just send it as an email. So maybe for the higher tiers, I'll make it so the backlog is available or something. I don't know. Haven't figured that out, but yeah, and we'll do other stuff. We'll, you know, I just, either way, I want to create something in that time rather than just sit here the whole time while Paula paints. So yeah, guys, keep trolling. Get that Limp Bizkit stuff out of here, Roll Stats.
Oh, no.
I used to love Limp Bizkit. I would still.
That's
listen
okay.
to it.
That I won't hold that against you.
But anyways, so thanks guys for watching. This was Master the Game. I'm Juice. This is BN Drake. Go check his channel out. This is Dave from Tactical Tokens. Check out his website, and we'll see you guys next time. Game on.